Guys, big breaking news coming out. World War III update. Former Russian President Dmitry says any European war with Russia could spiral into nuclear conflict. Dmitry says they simply cannot afford a war with Russia. The possibility of a fatal accident always exists, and such a conflict has an absolutely real risk of escalating into a war using weapons of mass destruction, nuclear. At the same time, Russian leader Putin signed a decree, and we're talking about a draft for this coming fall, starting October 1st, 2025. 135,000 conscripts will be called up. Alright, so we're going to see what's going on with all this news here, guys. World War III buildup is happening right in front of our faces. Before I start, for those of you that want to send us letters or prayer requests, you can send it to me, US Santiago, or my wife, Jessica Santiago, at 3432 US Highway 19, number 2, Holiday, Florida 34691. And for those of you that want to contribute to the channel, we do have the Cash App link and the PayPal link in the comments box and also the description box. Thank you again for your support. Your support is what keeps us on air. Another way to support the channel is by giving this video a thumbs up. The more thumbs up, the better. I really appreciate that, guys. Alright, so Russian leader makes major decree as World War III fears increase after 135,000 more soldiers conscripted. Over 135,000 soldiers have been called up by the Kremlin to fight in Ukraine as Russia continues to pummel targets in Kiev while crossing into NATO airspace in a huge escalation. Man, this is where we at right now. We are definitely seeing some huge biblical war. Russian leader Vladimir has issued a huge decree as Moscow continues its grinding war in Ukraine. Another 135,000 have now been drafted into the army in order to serve as tensions continue to rise between Russia and the West. Give me a second here, guys. So I'm going to have to read this part due to huge advertisements all over this news article. It says here, pro-Kremlin media is reporting that more soldiers are being brought in from the population to fight its war in Ukraine. Now, this comes as Moscow continues to pay for more North Korean soldiers to head to the front line, all in the hopes of winning the 3-year-long conflict. So they're going to be calling more North Korean soldiers out there. Meanwhile, NATO is stepping up its own defenses after a series of Russian incursions into its territory over the past couple of weeks. Once again, Putin have strongly denied any involvement in the incursions. So they are denying all these drone stuff that's happening in Estonia, Poland, Romania, Denmark, Germany, and other regions. So they're saying that this is not their drones. This is some kind of false FLAG. Alright, so instead blaming the West for creating a false, there you go, flag to start a potential third world war. Guys, leave comments down below. Do you think all this is a false, you know what? Do you think all this is a setup? What are your thoughts? Leave comments down below. All right, I want to read your comments. Do you think all these drone stuff is all basically baloney? The bear is saying it's not theirs. It's not theirs, and they're not trying to start any war with the Europeans. But what are your thoughts on it? So it says here, as Russia front line in Ukraine continued to stall, Ukrainian media UNN reported that soldiers are being called up from the public to fight. The conscription will take place from this coming Wednesday, October 1st, and will continue all the way up to the new year. Here comes a military draft. Whenever there's a draft, it means something big is about to hit the fan. It says here, a decree signed off by the leader himself. All people age 18 to 30. That's young. Again, that's like the young ones right there. This is 18 to 30. That's crazy. They need the young, strong ones. 18 to 30. Who are not in the reserve already will be called up to serve in the army. Wow. Resulting in around 135,000 people being added to Russian military personnel. Now, these people are subjected to Russian laws, which specifically state they are required to be conscripted in accordance with a law passed in 1998. In other words, it's mandatory. It's mandatory. It's time to put on the camouflage. Eventually, we're about to see something like that here. Remember, guys, under Joe, there was a law that was passed. I think it was last year, 2024. I think it was around August and September. They passed this law of a military draft for both men and women. All right, so it says here the entire country is set to have its reserve force boosted, as well as Crimea, which Russia illegally, again, that's what they say, have annexed from Ukraine in 2014. Since then, Crimea has served as a fortress for the Bear soldiers, using the peninsula as one of the starting points of the war back in February of 2022. It says here, this is not the first time that the Bear has called for a mobilization of troops from the masses, having done so back in autumn of 2022. Now, the drafting saw thousands of recruited into the military, but also saw swath of Russian upsticks and leave the country in an attempt to avoid being conscripted. Give me a second here, guys. I'm gonna have to refresh the page. There was some kind of issue. Here we go. Okay, so I got it all fixed and everything. Okay, so since then, you have Russia's parliament has been drafting a law to allow for constant mobilization, making it possible to recruit throughout the entire year, instead of its current system where it can only happen twice a year. The law has been approved, but has not received the official backing of Vladimir just yet. It comes as tensions between the Bear, Russia, and the West continue to spiral following accusation of Russian incursions in NATO airspace for the past 3 weeks. Things first got serious when Polish jets had to take down 19 of the Russian drones that crossed into Polish airspace from Ukraine after Moscow unleashed a wave of missiles. It says here, after this, Estonian airspace was violated when 3 Russian fighter jets were spotted in its territory for around 12 minutes before turning back to Russia. The latest spat came last week when drones were spotted across Donetsk airports and military bases, forcing a partial closure of Donetsk airspace. The UK has been dragged into the gradual escalation of tensions, bolstering NATO's eastern flank with its own fighter jets. It has also dealt with standoffs with Russian sea vessels trying to make their way through the English Channel. All right, so that's a very important news there, guys. Very important news. We are definitely seeing a lot of stuff here. Even Dmitri's putting out his information. Now I want to take it to the former leader of Russia. He's putting out a strong message here. Okay, so this is very important news here. Once again, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thank you again for your support. I really appreciate that. Dmitry, the former leader, well, Dmitry, now deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, and one of the, okay, we're going to skip all that. He said Monday, September 29, that Moscow has no interest in a war with Europe, but it remains possible. In a Telegram post, Dmitry ridiculed repeated warnings in Western capitals that Russia could launch a war against the alliance's NATO or EU country within the next 5 years. In European countries, they keep talking about a war with Russia within the next 5 years. It should not happen because it contradicts the interests of our country, he wrote. Now, Europe's economy is weak and dependent on the US, and its culture is degenerating, and Europe is losing its identity, dissolving into aggressive migrants. Again, this is coming out from Dmitry, the former leader of Russia. The former leader also alleged that Europe is too divided and economically weak to challenge Moscow, dismissing European leaders as incapable of serious decisions, describing European societies like unwilling to fight. Is that true? Well, here's the thing, guys. They rely on us. They do. We put in more money into the alliance. We put in like more than 70%, while the European just put a little tiny change. European leaders are insignificant, degenerates, incapable of taking on the burden of responsibility for any serious issues or matters. Excuse me. Now, Dmitry claimed that the bear does not need a war with anyone, including the frigid old Europe, arguing that Moscow historically always came to Europe as a liberator, not as an invader. Well, one thing I tell you guys, if the U.S. were not here, let's say the U.S. wiped out, would Europe defeat the bear one-on-one? No. No. I don't see that happening. They need us. They need us. They do. They truly need us. He added that the bear focus now was on what he described as restoring our returned lands, a reference to occupied Ukrainian territories, which he called difficult and costly. It says here, still, Dmitry conceded that war could break out accidentally, warning of the hyperactivity of frostbitten, skip that name, and suggested such a conflict could escalate to the use of weapons of mass destruction. Therefore, one needs to be on alert. Now, he's referring to nuclear. All right, so it says here, his remarks come as Europe is already on edge over a wave of mysterious drone sightings in recent weeks. Unidentified drones have been reported near military bases and critical infrastructure in Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Poland, and other countries, prompting investigation and heightened security alerts. Here's everyone's favorite person, the one that inspired the entire world. Zelensky on Sunday accused the bear of using oil tankers to launch and control drones targeting European countries, citing intelligence reports as he called for tougher sanctions against Moscow energy trade. Zelensky said Moscow reliance on its vast tanker fleet possessed not only an economic but also a security threat beyond Ukraine. It is especially important that sanctions painfully hit the bare trade and energy resources, the entire infrastructure of the bare tanker fleet. Now, there is an intelligence information that the Bear are using these very tankers to launch and control drones that they send against European countries. The NIS Prime Minister has described the incident as part of hybrid war, or hybrid attack, and officials in Copenhagen and Oslo said that the flight appeared to be the work of a professional actor. Since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Dmitry has repeatedly drawn attention with inflammatory statements and threats against the West, often couched in crude language. Okay, so that's where we at. Dmitry mocks old Europe. Give me 1 second here. And at the same time, I want to bring this one up. We talked about this last night. So you got all these World War III update stuff going on here, guys. Dimitri's talking about, equipments of mass destruction. You got the Bear. They got the military draft going on. And then you got this that happened last night. And we went live. I talked about this last night. Sudden large shorty of air refueling tankers from USA towards Europe. What in the world is going on here? Okay, so let me just bring this one up. As of 9:39 p.m. Eastern Time last night, September 28th, U.S. time, all right, so it says here you have 7 U.S. air refueling tankers have taken off from various points in the U.S. appearing to head towards Europe. To my knowledge, there are no NATO military exercises planned for this coming week, wherein air refueling tankers will be used. So why this sudden burst of tankers heading towards Europe? Unless, perhaps, something really big is about to hit the fan or something. He said here, get right with God. It says here at least 3 of these tankers are sword tankers out of McConnell Air Force Base in Kansas. SOAR tankers refers to special operation air refueling tanker aircraft such as modified KC-135 Strata tankers or other receiver-capable tankers that provide air-to-air refueling to other military aircraft, especially those involved in special operation. These tankers offer greatly flexibility and capability in complex scenarios, allowing for the consolidation of fuel, longer missions durations for receiver aircraft, and operation with minimal communication and at night. And this is where we are right now, guys. We are definitely seeing something here. World War III updates build up. We are living it. We are witnessing it, and we are seeing scriptures happening right in front of our faces. Do me a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Thank you again for your support. For those of you that want to send us letters, a prayer request, you can send it to me, US Santiago, or my wife, Jessica Santiago, at 3432 US Highway 19, number 2, Holiday, Florida, 34691. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time later. Peace.